My name is Franz-Albrecht Oettingen-Spielberg, and I've dedicated my life to understanding and hunting Europe's most magnificent game species. Join me as I share my passion and field experience in the management and pursuit of my favorite five, where conservation, ethical hunting and sustainable management guide every decision we make. I think the three main questions that seem to come up over and over again is where to call, when to call, and how to call. And I do believe that all three questions are valid questions. I can see the female on the rutting spot. I don't think we're going to make it all the way down to the high seat. We're going to just try to get to the ridge and start calling from there. Yeah, the buck is behind her, I can see him. I think where, it very much depends. Are you going out just to shoot any buck? Or are you going out to shoot a particular buck? If you want a particular buck, you need to know and understand where his territory is. And you need to enter the boundaries of his territory for him to want to react to the call. So it's not enough to place yourself 300 meters away from a forest where that buck has a small territory inside that forest and think that he's going to come to where you are. You need to go into that forest, into his territory, and call him from there. How do you know the territory? Trail cams. Then, when? Well, sometime during the rut. And it's difficult to know when that buck is single or when he's very much with the female. Whether he's a buck that is more active in the mornings or more active in the evenings, that's also something that trail cams can help with. But I would say it's a gut feeling, depending also on the weather conditions. After a bit of rain, always there's a higher activity. But during the rut, bucks are really active all day long. We've seen here, after 6 decades of calling roebucks, that yes, you can go out at 5 in the morning and have success, but from having spent many days out in the field from 5 in the morning until 10 at night, not returning home, but being out there, which is what I did in former years when I was younger, many days, we came back to the same that also our grandfathers did, that in the rut, from 10 o'clock in the morning until 1 in the afternoon, and from 6 o'clock in the afternoon until dark are the most effective times to call. It's incredible. I can see the female maybe 100 meters away. She's not even looking at us when I call. And the buck is probably just above her, somewhere better down as well. We can't see him. But we're so close and there's absolutely no reaction. And that's what often happens in the rut. They're just bedded down somewhere. And you're calling maybe from quite near. You think there's no buck in the area because nothing happens, but they're there. And it's a game of patience, waiting, trying to nag the buck and persuade him to come and have a look. It's a waiting game. The main roll call that I use currently is the FAOS brass roll call that a friend of mine and I are making. I think it gives me the biggest range from low sounds, medium sounds, and high sounds. I can do anything that I need to do on a stand with this roll call. It comes in a beautiful Tuscan leather handmade sheath. And I've used this call for the last 2 years in Sweden, in Spain, in Germany, and the bucks have reacted extremely well. Is this the only call that calls in big bucks? No, of course not. But for me, calling a buck with this type of call, that is going to last me for the rest of my life and I'll be able to pass down to my son, just gives me a different feeling, and that's why I love it.
is with a female, territorial buck is with a female, is if a satellite buck would now come to the call and move in between us and the buck, that would make him get up and come down and chase the satellite buck away. Or if another female started moving through here that he could see, then he would react. As it is now, he's so comfortable with his female there that he doesn't really want to move anywhere. But we're going to give it time. We're going to keep calling, and maybe we can just persuade him to come and have a look. Or at least get up and start chasing his female around, and we'll get a shot then. He's a great buck. He's 7 years old. He's ear tagged, and on one side he's got a very big fork that nearly comes out of his coronet. Big coronets.
Then, regarding how to call, there's also so many different theories. I'm sure everybody has their own idea, and I don't want to disrespect anybody who thinks they have the perfect strategy. For me, I mean, over the last 30 years, I've tried everything from calling very silently to having very rigid types of call, from doing 5 minutes of this, then 5 minutes of that, then this break, then that, and so on. In the end, I take it from the former Duke of Bavaria, who was an absolute genius when it comes to roe deer. And he said, call loudly and call a lot.
Buck fever. It still gets me every time. It's crazy. Got a completely dry mouth. I mean, wonderful example of a buck that is tied down with a female and that has absolutely no interest whatsoever to react to the call. I mean, we've been here now 40 minutes. Most of the time we had eye contact, or we know where he was. But zero reaction from the buck. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. I'm still happy that we managed to take him in the end. Of course, it's nicer in the rut when the buck actually comes to the call. But we can't, sometimes it just has to happen like this. We've tried this buck many times this year. He's 7 years old, he's got a green ear tag, he's got a very nice, slightly abnormal side on one side, freakish side on one side, and very big coronets. And he's a good buck to take. The Hornady 6mm did its job, that's for sure. Ja, wo ist er denn? Such's.
There's a dead buck. But that's not ours.
I know this buck.
He's a 2-year-old that we didn't want to shoot, and he's just lying here.
It's
relatively fresh. He's not warm, but I'm guessing he's been killed by the buck that we just shot, because as you can see, we shot the other buck maybe 50 meters up above, and he was just here in the high grass. Macy found him. He's a 2-year-old. He's actually also broken off his right side. He had another horn on the right hand side, and he was a fun 2-year-old because he had all these extra points, so we didn't want to shoot him. We know he's 2 because he was ear tagged, and I don't know what happened, but I'm guessing, yeah, he must have been killed. And I was wondering while we were calling why there was no satellite bucks coming in, because usually 1 or 2, either a yearling or a 2-year-old. But one of the ones that we knew here is lying here dead. And it seems to me, I mean, if I look at the eyes, they're still relatively fresh. I mean, this is only a few hours ago. This wasn't last night, this was this morning sometime. But that just goes to show how aggressive these little bucks can be. I mean, they fight to the death. I wouldn't say it's something that happens regularly, but it happens. Right, let's have a look at the murder buck then. Macy, come, let's go, los. This is really the center rutting spot of the buck we shot. There's markings every few meters. There's one just right there as well. So this is where him and his female did most of their rutting. And you can see here, this is very nice to see actually. In Germany, this is what we call a Hexenring. I think in the old days, they found these strangely natural rings and they thought it must have been a witch. So in German, the name is witch ring, but it's actually the rut ring of the bucks. So if you find this in the forest, you know that you found the central rutting place of a buck. And this is where he was chasing his female around these trees in order to mate with her. And yeah, it's just, you don't find it that often, but once you do, yeah, you know you found the absolute center of his territory. That's why there's so many markings around here. Also here on the trees everywhere. I mean, this is really the center. And that's probably why that young buck we just found, why he was killed, because he entered the absolute center rutting area of this particular buck. Mason, us! Yeah, I think we found our murder. Psst. Because he's also got quite a bit of fighting scars here on the back. So the young buck obviously tried to defend himself, but he couldn't deal with a buck like this, of course. He's 7 years old. We can see this by the green ear tag that he's got. And I guess it was probably one of these long tines that got the young buck. But look at the skull size of this roe deer, and also the neck, coronets. Fantastic buck. One of those moments, on the one hand, it's incredible joy because we've been looking for this buck for some days and he really is the right buck to take. He's had 7 years. There's younger satellite bucks around that need to take over the area. And at the same time, having known him for such a long time, there's always a slight bit of sadness involved as well because, yeah, he's gone now. But the hunt was incredibly exciting. And even though he didn't react at all to the call, we managed to take him in the end. Amazing dark red color. And the skull size really is particularly large for our area. We can maybe compare it in a second to the younger buck that we have. That's really a big skull. Here you can see the murder and the murdered. Obviously this is a 2-year-old buck. We know this because he's ear tagged with a blue tag. And this is the 7-year-old territorial buck tagged with a green ear tag. But what I wanted to show is the difference between skull size. This buck on the right here really has a surprisingly big skull, whereas the younger buck here on the left-hand side has a much smaller skull. Of course, one of the reasons is because he's younger, but secondly, I also think that this one has a particular big skull genetically. It's just an interesting thing to see. The size of the territories of bucks is really down to habitat. If it's a very good habitat, the bucks need much smaller territories. And then on top, of course, it also depends on the population density. The better the habitat, the more dense the population can be, and therefore the smaller territories. I've seen places in Sweden and Spain where territories are huge. I mean, I would say 20, 30 hectares. And then I know bucks that live on 2 hectares here. I think the row rut is the most magical time in the year. For me, it's part of my life and I cannot imagine living without the land, the animals and everything as much in harmony as possible.